A vote for Morrissey is a vote for me. A vote for Marcia is really a vote for me. And a vote for Cindy is a vote for me. A vote for me. A vote for me. I'm not on the ballot, but in a certain way, I'm on the ballot, so please go out and vote. The first greatest vote was for me.
All right, so that was President Trump making it pretty clear that the midterm elections are really all about him. And brand new polling out today suggests that his strategy is actually having some success. A new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows the president's approval rating at an all-time high of 45%. But that same poll shows 50% of likely voters are likely to see a Democratic-controlled Congress next month. The Democrats, though, well, they're maintaining a 9-point lead over Republicans on the generic ballot. All right, joining me now, Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian, Johns Hopkins University professor and political commentator Wendy Osefo, and polling editor, for Huffington Post, Ariel Edwards-Levy. Great to have all of you with us. Wendy, let me begin with you, if I may. This new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll also found that 72% of Democrats are enthusiastic about the midterms. 68% of Republicans are eager to vote. Which party is in a better position, you think, to harness this excitement ahead of the midterms?
I think the Democrats, but right now it can go either way. The surge we're seeing in the poll numbers is a direct reflection of the different groups that have been marginalized from the Trump administration. Whether you look at millennials, you look at Black, Latinos, immigrants, we even see that women have a preference of voting Democrats, and that has doubled up to 25%. But what we're seeing here is just numbers. And for either party to say that this is their golden ticket, they'll be greatly, not focused on the issue. And the issue here is that this is what matters. Who can mobilize their constituents to get to the polls? This is not about retweeting articles on Twitter. This is not about Twitter fingers. This is not about being a social activist in social media. This is about who's going to wake up on November 6th, tie their shoelaces, and go to the polls. And that's going to be the party that controls Congress.
Ariel, Republicans are touting President Trump's economic policy ahead of the midterms, but Democrats are actually focusing their message on health care. And the interesting thing is this. According to that same poll, 45% of registered voters say that Democrats are better at handling health care. Only 27% prefer Republicans. Who has the more significant issue here when you kind of break it down? The Republicans running on the economy and jobs and the numbers that favor them, or the Democrats that are messaging on health care?
I think the Democrats have certainly gone all in on health care, and there are reasons to think that could be a good bet. You see that people are very energized about the issue. Democrats all over the country are running their ads mostly on that, and certainly the health care bill, the Obamacare bill, is much more popular than it was, obviously, 8 years ago. With Republicans, the tax bill, I don't think is quite the boost that they were looking for, but at the same time, the fact that the economy is good, that's one of the things that's propping them up in what otherwise would be a much more difficult environment.
Let me ask you, Amy, about the significance of interest among conservative voters. According to NBC and the Wall Street Journal poll that we have, 59% of Republican-leaning voters would identify themselves as Trump supporters. 35% say they support the Republican Party, perhaps suggesting that it's not just about Trump, but it's about the broader party. What's the difference between those two, between being a hardcore Trump supporter and being a Republican Party supporter?
Well, I think what's important to remember here is not everyone's going to think the same way. Not everyone's going to like the same people, but it's actually the policies that President Trump is implementing with the America First agenda. And that's what I think that Republicans overall are really happy with. The fact that the economy is booming, the fact that there are more jobs being created and filled. Those are very promising issues that are promises that were made, and there are promises that are being kept.
So, guys, I'm going to ask you guys to stick with me just for a little bit, because I want to turn to immigration. That's obviously an issue that the president is hoping to make this election about. Obviously, there is a lot of news that works in his favor. There's the Caravan, and that is making its way to Mexico, and that certainly has the potential to create a crisis at the U.S. border. We have new pictures that are coming in today. Thousands of migrants advancing through Mexico after clashes with Mexican soldiers at the Guatemala-Mexico border. MSNBC's Mariana Atencio joins us live from Tapachula, Mexico, with the very latest. Mariana.
Eamon, it is here where the migrant caravan plans to overnight. You see some of them still trickling into the city. We're talking about a mass of around 7,000 people, and we have been with them all day. At 8 in the morning local time, these folks were marching, Eamon, men, women, children. There are young boys and girls marching by themselves. There are mothers holding their toddlers in their arms. Just today, they did a 20-mile walk, and I can just say, because we experienced it here with our NBC News team, it is pretty extenuating, and they plan on doing it all over again tomorrow. There's a debate in Mexico now about what to do with these migrants. As you said, some of them were tear gassed on that bridge on the border between Guatemala and Mexico, and a lot of local journalists, public opinion, condemning those actions and saying, how can we then demand better treatment of our migrants in the United States if this is how we are treating Central American migrants here in Mexico? So while we're watching those Trump tweets, this is a debate that is going on really around the world about what to do with these folks and with what appears to be a massive exodus from Central America. Eamon?
All right, NBC's Mariana Tencio live for us in Mexico this hour. Thanks, Mariana. So now the question becomes, will this migrant caravan sway voters in the midterms? In our new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, voters do in fact see immigration as an issue, but it's not necessarily the main issue that would actually drive them to the polls. Let's bring back our panel. Ariel, let me pick up on that issue with the immigration, this particular caravan that is making its way. Do you think that the caravan situation could make the larger picture of immigration a hot button issue for the midterms on both parties, excuse me?
It's certainly something that we saw around the time that family separation became a big issue, and it became something that both parties were very passionate about. And in that case, I think it comes down to that old battle of turnout versus persuasion, in which case, you know, it probably does amp up his base, the part of his base that's very focused on immigration issues. But at the same time, it's not clear that that's the kind of policy that plays very well with people who are a little bit more toward the middle.
I know that President Trump just 1 hour ago tweeted about the caravan, saying efforts are being made to stop the caravan, then calling caravans a disgrace to the Democrat Party. The president has repeatedly blamed the situation on the Democrats, even going so far as to suggest that the Democrats sent the caravan, believe it or not. Amy, is that a message that the GOP should distance itself from or embrace? And what should the Democrat strategy be when the president tries to pin this on them?
Well, if it's not true, then the Democrats need to speak up about that. If it is true, then yes, shame on them. What we've seen is a lot of identity politics going on in this election, which is unfortunate. To have 7,000 people part of this caravan, it is frightening. I feel for these people. I'm actually very scared for these people. We know that there are going to be probably hundreds and hundreds of deaths and injuries. This needs to stop, and I think that both Democrats and Republicans know that we are a nation of laws, and whether if it's a wall or any type of technology or even putting the National Guard at the border, we need to do it in order to stop this.
So what do you have any evidence that the Democrats are behind this, or is this just something that the president is probably just throwing out there like he normally does with a lot of these accusations, not grounded in fact?
Well, no, I don't have that answer, but I can say just from what I've seen on social media, and once again, you can't believe everything that you see on social media, but I have actually seen video footage of money being dispersed to these folks, some of these folks, before they even left Central America, and that's concerning.
Yeah, and we don't know what the nature of that money is or who's providing it or what they're using it for, so that's a little bit difficult to contextualize. Wendy, how should Democrats respond to these attacks, and will this situation energize their voters?
It could energize voters because we know that 66% of voters said that they do not like family separation. So depending on how this narrative can be spun, it could be something that the Democrats can use. But let us look at this from a different lens here. This is not really an immigration issue. This is a human rights issue. And so Donald Trump has to be very careful in the ways in which he attacks the people who are coming to these borders. In the words of Shire, no one puts their children in a boat unless the land is safer than the water. We have people who are risking their lives, their children children's lives for better. And as an immigrant myself, I know that no one is putting themselves in any of this type of position unless they are trying to get to something better. And so Donald Trump has to be very careful here, and the Democrats do as well. But we need to make sure that we put forth policies that not only benefit Americans, but these individuals who may potentially come to our country, and that is an issue.
Now, can I ask a quick question for your other panelist? You are an immigrant. So, I don't know, did your family come through the U.S. Embassy like they're supposed to, or did they come across in the fashion that these migrants are doing so as we speak? Because isn't there, I mean, there's a method to this. There's the correct way and then there's the wrong way. So one would be safer, one would be dangerous.
When you're running for your life, there's no wrong way. When you are running for your life and your children's life, you are trying to make it better for them and for yourself. So you are speaking from someone who sits at their comfort of their privilege, and you are saying that there is a right and a wrong way. But when your child is dying and when people who are in gangs are threatening your life and your children's life, I am sorry, you do not see right or wrong at that time.
Guys,
as you travel, it's dangerous as well.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to leave it there. I know there's obviously something that is very emotional, and obviously it can be debated for hours, but we do have to leave it at that. Amy Tarkanian, Wendy Osefo, and Ariel Edwards-Levy, thank you so much, guys, for your insights.